Your retreat didn't feel hard because you're bad at operations. It felt hard because there was no backend holding anything up for you. Here's the simple system that pros use: foundation, flow, capacity. I'll show you each piece, how they connect, and what to implement first so that you can protect your energy. If your retreat felt heavier than it looked, there's a reason for that. And it's not because you're bad at logistics or lack operational gene. It's because the entire event was running without a backend, without a structure designed to hold the weight of everything that it was trying to carry. The truth is, a retreat can look completely polished on the outside, but still feel completely overwhelming for any host. And if you've ever been wondering why you felt on call the entire time, or like you could never find any time to relax, and wondering why you were mentally juggling a million different details while your guests were enjoying themselves, it's not because you weren't prepared enough. It's just that your back end just wasn't built. Without a clear workflow, without clear ownership, without capacity planning, everything is going to funnel through you. And when that happens, you become the decision maker, the operator, the coordinator, the timekeeper, the problem solver, the person who is keeping everything running together in your head. And of course, that feels heavy. Of course, you walk away from this feeling exhausted. And of course, you felt like you couldn't fully connect with your guests and the people who were there to learn from you. This isn't about your personality. It isn't about your leadership. It isn't about how much you care. It isn't about how hard you worked. It's all about the structure. When your retreat doesn't have a back end, a real operational back, the host becomes the back end, and it feels like everything was depending on you. And that's because it was. But that is a solvable problem, and there is a fix to it. There is a system for this, and it's a simple one. And once you see it, everything about hosting starts to feel a little bit lighter. You're not struggling because you're disorganized. You just haven't been given the system that makes running a retreat run smoothly. And that's exactly what I'm going to show you. So let's make this simple, because that's what you need right now. There are 3 parts to every retreat operational background. Just 3. Foundation, flow, capacity. Once these pieces lock together, everything else, from the planning, the transitions, the team, the energy, it all suddenly starts to make sense. So let me show you each one. First, the foundation, your backbone documents. Foundation is the anchor, and it's the part that a lot of people skip because they don't realize just how important it is, and it is what leaves everything feeling so unpredictable. Foundation is where the retreat stops living in your head and finally starts living in the structure that everyone else can follow. This includes your master event prep overview, your event purpose and what guests should walk away with, core dates and timing, roles and responsibilities, vendor and contact list, key decisions and decision roles, your retreat documentation like SOPs, instructions, and expectations. This is the backbone of your retreat. This is what keeps everything together and helps to reduce and prevent constant questions. If your team doesn't understand the purpose of each session, if the venue doesn't know who to contact for information, if no one knows who owns what, you end up walking away being the walking answer key. The foundation is what keeps the retreat stable. 2 is the flow, your run of show and your workflow. Flow is a piece that takes your event from being a nice plan to a smooth event. This is where a lot of retreats break down because they only have a schedule and not a run of show. A schedule tells you when things happen. A run of show tells you how those things are happening and how the retreat moves. Here's what a real run of show includes: activity blocks, timing, dependencies, transition cues, what needs to be prepared before each moment, what needs to be reset or handled afterwards, buffer times for when things shift, and contingency steps. And then there's the workflow, how tasks move from planning to prep to execution. This is how professional events stay predictable. Nothing is figure it out later. Everything has its own path. Examples of this would be you giving the cue to start the welcome session. Or here's what happens if something is delayed by 10 minutes. These are the materials that are needed for the next section. This person escorts the speaker while this person handles prepping the next room. Flow is what keeps the retreat moving without relying on you. Third is capacity, protecting your energy and your bandwidth. Capacity is the part that no one really teaches, and it matters more than you think. It's an honest, realistic mapping of what can you actually carry, what your team can realistically handle, who needs support during those high pressure moments, where your energy dips and where it needs protection, where the transitions are too heavy for one person, and where buffer time is needed. I'll handle it is not a plan. It's a burnout strategy. When you start mapping capacity, everything shifts. You delegate differently, you pace the retreat differently, you protect your energy differently, and you enter the retreat knowing that you won't have to run on adrenaline. Capacity is what keeps you calm and able to lead. Foundation is the anchor. Flow is the movement, and capacity is the support. When all three come together, your retreat stays steady, predictable, and supported. No more guesswork, no more scrambling, and no more being the sole person that has all the information. This is the backend that carries the retreat for you. So let me show you how foundation, flow, and capacity actually work together in real time. Let's walk through something that every retreat has, the arrival day. This is one of the most emotionally charged moments for you and your guests. And it's also where a lot of people unintentionally overload themselves. But with this system, it becomes predictable, even maybe a little peaceful. So let's start with foundation, because this is a part that quietly holds everything together. Think of foundation as the part where the retreat stops living in your head and becomes something that your team can see, understand, and support. It's the anchor, the grounding, the why, and the how all in one place. In a well-supported retreat, everyone understands the purpose around why you're building it. They understand what the retreat is meant to create emotionally and logistically. They know the timing, and they know the importance of the decisions that have already been made. They know their role, they know who to go to for what, and the vendors aren't texting you directly because they already know who to go to contact for the information that they need. Your team isn't guessing about the intention of a session. They already know because it's crystal clear. A foundation doesn't mean that you have a giant folder or binder full of 40 different pages of SOP. It simply means that the retreat exists and lives outside of your head somewhere. It's outside of your brain, and it's codified and to a point where people understand what is happening. They know what to do without needing to go to you for translation. When a foundation is missing, everything defaults back to you. And when foundation is strong, everything moves through structure and no longer through your mental bandwidth. And that's why foundation matters. It keeps it stable before it even begins. Flow is where your retreat actually moves and comes to life. It's the choreography behind the scenes. It's the rhythm that tells your team how everything moves, how your guests are moving, and how you move as a leader. It's the choreography behind the scenes that tells your team how the event is supposed to move, how your guests move, how you move throughout the evening. On arrival day, flow looks like a guest arriving and someone already being there to welcome them, to guide them. Not because it was a sign, because it was always a part of the plan to begin with. They get everything they need without you needing to jump in. And someone else is resetting everything up on the table behind them. That way, when your next guest arrives, they can take over and give that guest the exact same experience that the first one had. You're not darting between conversations, managing tiny cracks, wondering if something is following through. The sequence is already mapped out, so everybody already knows their cue. Then when the next part of the evening begins, there's no scrambling, there's a transition. Someone signals it, someone closes the welcome, someone sets the room for what's next, and you simply walk into the room when it's time, fully present and available. Flow turns chaos into coordination. It makes the retreat feel effortless, Not because the event is simple, but because every role has been defined. That's what flow does. It holds the movement so that you can hold the room. And finally, capacity. The one that people rarely ever talk about, but it is what determines how you feel and how you show up throughout the entire retreat. Capacity is the honest conversation you have with yourself to determine what you can actually carry and what your team can realistically handle. It's acknowledging that retreats ask a lot of you, emotionally, mentally, and energetic. And so much of that heaviness comes from taking on roles that you were never supposed to take on in the first place. Capacity is where you map the truth. Where do you need support? Where does your energy dip? Which transitions are too heavy for one person? Which moments require an extra set of hands? Where do you need buffer time instead of rushing? It might look like somebody else greeting the host while you set the emotional tone, or someone else managing the meal chef while you go and reset your energy for the evening sessions, or having a second person to help with check-in because welcoming 20 people at one time is just way too much for one person to handle. Capacity planning isn't indulgent, it's protective. It's what allows you to lead with clarity and not adrenaline. When capacity is ignored, you end up being overextended before the retreat even begins. But when capacity is honored, you enter the retreat grounded, and it stays that way throughout the entire event. When foundation, flow, and capacity all come together, what used to be chaotic is now calm. You know who owns what. You know how the evening moves. You know what to do if something shifts, and nothing is balancing on your memory or last-minute decision making. This is how retreats shift from, I hope this works, to, we have a plan. This is the difference from hosting from overwhelm to hosting with grounded leadership. Before we go any further, I want to give you something quick, something simple that can be like a grounding win to finish within like 15 minutes. It's not a whole system. It's not a huge project. Just one moment of clarity that makes everything feel lighter. Here's what I want you to do. Open up a blank page. It can be digital or paper. And I want you to write down these 4 things. 1, the purpose of the retreat. Why this retreat exists and what it's meant to create. 2, the people you're hosting. The audience the retreat is designed to serve. 3, the dates and location. Just the basics so everything has an anchor. And 4, the 3 guest experience non-negotiables. These are the moments or feelings you refuse to compromise on. That's it. You don't need a timeline. You don't need a workflow. You don't even need a team yet. You just need to get the retreat out of your head and onto a sheet of paper so you can start building some structure. And if you want a little bit more guidance on this, to go like deeper into your purpose, your goals, your reason why you are holding this event, you can get my free Purpose and Goals workbook down in the description below. But even without that workbook, this is just one simple step that will start reducing your mental load immediately. Because at the end of the day, once everything is out of your head, now we have a place for things to start landing. This is the first piece of the foundation, and it shifts everything. And now I want to bring this back to you and how this structure is going to change everything for you as the host. Because this isn't just about organization, it's about how you feel in your body during the retreat. How you move through the days, how you show up emotionally, mentally, and energetically. And when the back end is strong, your experience shifts completely. You suddenly feel fewer surprises. Instead of bracing for the next issue, you're trusting the flow. You don't walk into a room wondering what's happening next. You don't feel the need to scan a space and micromanage every part of the situation. You're not waiting for the next question to land on your plate. There's a quiet steadiness under everything, and you can feel it. You stop becoming the default problem solver. When foundation and flow are in place, people stop coming to you for every small question. And it's not because they don't need your help any longer. It's because the structure already tells them what to do. You're no longer the person who needs to approve the chair placements, the music volume, the vendor questions, the guest requests. You get to be the leader instead of the operator. You breathe more, literally. Capacity planning builds breathing room into your day. You have buffer time, you have support, you have space to reset before you're stepping into your next part of the event. Your nervous system starts running the retreat in the background, and you finally feel grounded and like yourself again. You can actually enjoy the retreat that you created. And this is the shift that surprises most hosts. When the system is holding the retreat for you, you finally get to enjoy the moments that you design. You connect instead of rushing. You teach from presence instead of adrenaline. You listen deeply instead of troubleshooting, and you're no longer scanning the room looking for problems. Your retreat becomes something for you too, and not just something that you're responsible for. You feel confident instead of reactive, and this is really the part that changes everything. When you know your foundation is clear, when you know your flow is defined, when your capacity is honest, you walk into each day with a sense of grounded confidence. You're not waiting for something to go wrong. You're not trying to keep everything together. You are not hosting the whole retreat in your head. You're leaning calmly, cleanly, and full. And this is what a lot of hosts don't get to feel. Not because they don't care, not because they're unprepared, but no one taught them the systems that helps them to create that emotional safety. Structure isn't restrictive. Structure is what frees you. It's what gives you presence. It's what gives you energy. It's what lets you come to do the thing that you came to do, to guide, to teach, to connect, to inspire, and to do it all without burning out behind the scenes. This is how your retreat begins to feel more aligned with your brand instead of being heavier. Now that you can see the system, the foundation, the flow, and capacity, and how it changes everything else for you, this is where we shift into something just as important, but often misunderstood. Even with a solid background, a retreat can still feel flat if the experience isn't designed with intention. And this is where many talented hosts and CEOs get stuck. They pour their heart and energy into the aesthetics, be that the decor, the candles, the gift bags, the location, and all of that does add beauty, but it isn't what people remember deeply. Guests remember the emotional journey. They remember how the experience made them feel. They remember the pacing, the clarity, those moments of calm that left them feeling supported. So now that you've understand the back end, it's now time to focus on an area that is one of the biggest misconceptions of hosting any of retreat or no. And that is that the guest experience is not created by beautiful details. It's created by meaningful design that moves people emotionally. And that's exactly where we're going next. We'll go into why some retreats look stunning but don't feel as impactful as they should be, and how to create a powerful guest journey from start to finish. So when you're ready, go ahead and click the video on your screen right now. And if you want more behind the scenes tips and tricks for how to plan and host a retreat or an event, go ahead and click subscribe, because I've got way more coming your way.